All right, I will go ahead and call to order the the regular school board meeting of the Madison Central School District on Monday, January 13th at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Jorgensen or Mr. Brooks, are you recording over there still? Okay. Can record the members present or absent tonight, and I will establish a quorum. We will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all of you should have received the agenda. Can I get a motion to go ahead and approve that?
So moved.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. All right. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is approval of the consent agenda items 7 through 9. If we need to pull any of those out, we can do so at this time. Otherwise, I would take a motion to go ahead and approve those. Okay, Steve. And I think it was that Jordan. That was Jordan. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Kirsty. Okay, do we have any, oh no, never mind, any discussion? All those in favor of approving consent agenda items 6 through 9, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is hearing of delegations and written communications. Do we have any? No? Okay. Next item is number 11, Administrator's Report. Mr. Jorgensen.
We'll start off with some good news. I'll let Mr. Brooks comment on it, but bus grant, we were approved for another bus grant. You want to touch on that quick, Mitch?
The clean diesel round 17 grants went out. We were approved for a propane bus, 65 passenger. The grant amount is just a little over 50,000, and then the bus itself will be about 144,000. It's actually estimated that might show up May, June of this year. All the paperwork came through today, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
So good news that we were able to get on that bus grant and help with the cost of that. Mr. Hall's working, he's not here right now, he's working on E-rate. I know Mr. Brooks been working on this, so looking at updating all of our equipment throughout our building with the internet. Some of it's reaching the end of life as far as wireless and so on. So that's still being worked on, but the E-rate would pay 60%, district would pay 40%. So it's a good program for us to get everything updated again. Legislative session starts tomorrow with the state of the state. Some bills we'll be watching. There will be many. Right now, the 1020 is educational savings accounts, which it can be called what you want to call it. It's a voucher program. I know the ASBSD sent out a sample resolution, and I would bring that forward in February to have us approve it as well, that we would not be in support of that. Another similar voucher bill is 1009. Deals again with starting the vouchers. 1017 is out there right now. It requires cash payments to be accepted for school events. Some schools have gone to cashless only. A lot of, like we do both, so it's not one I'm going to lose sleep over either way, no matter what happens there, but it'll be interesting to see where that ends up. 1019 is the increased sales tax. That's the one that reduces the sales tax, or excuse me, reduces the property tax by changing the sales tax from 4.2 to 5. That could have some definite impact on school funding though, so we'll see how some of that plays out as we move forward. And that's just a few. There will be many, I'm afraid there's going to be many bills this session, and like always, we'll bring those forward. You can get on ASBSD's site, and they have a whole list of them right now. I'm not gonna go through them all. A lot of them right now, they're sort of standing to see where they're at with them as well, but there will be many, many bills. I know that ASBSD sent out something for the land,
Yeah.
the Legislative Action Network, and we're not limited to one, so as many of you that would want to sign up for that would be good. They just get information out sooner and to help try and spread the word.
And can we sign up for that, just ourselves, right? on
Yep,
that
or
email?
let us know, I can
Yeah.
get to them as well. So, again, there's no limit on only one aboard or two aboard, it can be as many as you want. And then, Transportation Manager, Mr. Fiedler, now is going full bores, and he's dove into it head first and doing a great job, so we got that up and running. Other than that, it is legislative session, officially tomorrow, so as things come up, I will share all the good news. Any questions? Other than that, that's what I have, unless Mr. Brooks has some more you want to touch on?
No, we're good.
So the resolution, I think we all received copies of that from Associated School Boards, so I encourage you to take a look at that, and like Mr. Jorgensen said, that'll come forward probably at the February meeting for us to support.
Yeah, and I think there's gonna
That's
be,
a concern. No, go ahead.
I think we're gonna see a lot of, and of course, we have a new person out at ASBSD as well. You know, so I don't know if they'll do everything exactly the same as they've done in the past, or if they'll do some things different, but between ASBSD and SASD and SDSSA and all the other initials, I can, large school group and all of them, they'll all be very involved. I'm already getting questionnaires from the large school group on where everybody stands on certain bills, so this is just the beginning. And before we get too excited about bills, we gotta let some of them play out. a little
Right.
bit, too.
I do have a question. You know, I know that several of the entities you mentioned, the acronyms, have all, joined together with their thoughts on this education savings account, AKA the voucher thing.
Yep.
Like, I don't see that very often. Since I've been involved in school board, that they all agree on something.
Getting agreement on all the groups is not an everyday event out there, but
Yeah.
there's no doubt about this, because no matter how you look at it, whether the governor says it isn't coming out of the K-12, it's coming out of somewhere. There's one pot of money, so if it's not that, then it's the library cuts, it's the public TV cuts, or pick whatever other cuts that are on the chopping board. Well, at the same time, you're talking about adding a $4 million program, so.
Yeah.
Every state, and I don't want to do this quote because I have to go back and check, I believe, the last thing I was on, I can't remember if it's 5 or 7 states that had started one and then went to a public vote. It got voted down in every state that had a public vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully we don't have to get to that point, because then it means it'll be this going into effect first before we ever get there. But there will be a lot of discussion on that. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion on the prison, without a doubt. That's going to be one of the big topics as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take up a lot of time with the legislative body. I think eminent domain is going to be another one that's going to take up a ton of time out there. So there will be a lot of items, like every year. The makeup of some of the committees is definitely different than it has been in the past. So see how the session goes, I guess, is what we can do. And that when things come up and we have to be actively involved, we'll get actively involved.
Sounds good. Anything else? All right, thank you. Did you have anything else, Mr. Brooks?
No.
All right. Okay, next agenda item is our second reading of the update to the board policy DID inventories. And this is the second reading, so we will need to either approve or disapprove.
So where this came about, the state changed their capitalization threshold and then encouraged schools to match. My auditors were on site at this time that this occurred, so we just went through the policy. I kind of picked their brain. We added this table to it. That actually comes from our audit report each year. We kept our inventory pieces the same. We also used how we kind of use between capital and general fund. It's good to have that clear so everybody knows what we're doing. So this is just kind of addition, changing the different amounts onto it. So this is the recommended for approval. I guess one add is immaterial leases. Lease, like a licensure, is still a lease of some type of an asset, but it's not a physical, tangible asset. That gets added into this. That's something we got to start accounting for.
Basically bringing up to date what the auditors saw when they met with us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So we'll have a motion first and then we can have discussion if we need to. Can I get a motion to go ahead and approve?
So moved.
Okay, Steve.
Second.
Second by Jordan. Okay. Any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor to go ahead and approve policy DID inventories, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next agenda item is the first reading of the proposed changes to board policy JCL wellness policy. And this was a book, if I can be honest about it.
So this came about during our food service review. We needed to have reviewed wellness policy, and there had been a lot of changes on the state and federal level since we've done our last review. So our committee is made up of Chad White, our PE teacher, Brianna Kleckis, our PE teacher, Mary Dossett, middle school health, Marty Konishny, high school PE, Mr. Ricky is the admin rep, Darlene Stephenson is director of child nutrition, and then we needed two parents, but at the time they were here, so the two parents was Dan Hall as the elementary parent, and then I was the high school parent. And then there's an assessment tool that we would go through. We pulled out Sioux Falls, Vermillion, Lennox, West Central, Del Rapids, and Associated School Board sample policies. We just went through the assessment. As we were going through it, a lot of it we took from Vermillion. Vermillion must have just went through this the year before. They had a lot of good language. So what we're recommending, and well, we have the month to go through it because it's just first reading, is to strike our current policy, and then we rewrote it. I'll just kind of scroll down to address all the pieces that need to be addressed to be acceptable for school food service. And there's a lot that was in there, and then here's kind of the start of it, and it addresses all the different areas. So it's just first reading. Any thoughts onto it? But that was our process we did. And then once it's completed, we would then send in our review paperwork and our new policy to the state to make sure it meets compliance.
Okay, you guys have
Any thoughts or concerns?
Thoughts?
That's what we have the month, the time for, so you can just message them. I can get them out to the committee to take a look at, or.
Yeah, I appreciate the committee taking the time to
yes.
go through this.
So will this be available for us later to read through again? Or do we get, like it'll be posted on
Next
the-
month it'll be
Yes.
posted again, yep.
It will be,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it should be available on our website and through accessing the board meeting, right?
Once it's approved, it goes on the website.
No, but like if
Yeah, oh yeah,
something would get
through the link, yeah.
Yeah, through
Yep.
the link. I'll be looking at it. Okay, we'll go on to the next agenda item, number 14. Establish April 8th, 2025 as the annual school district election date to be combined with the city of Madison election if held.
So with our election, I just put together that little calendar flow through. The notices will publish here the 17th and 24th, and then petitions can start circulating January 31st, and then they close the 28th. We have our three-year positions and our 2 one-year positions available on that, and the city said that we could then combine with them again use the same election date for that. So the recommendation would be to set our election for, let me get down to the bottom of that,
April 8th.
April 8th, and then to combine with the city, as we've done in the past.
Okay, we can go ahead and take a motion to approve that, and then discuss if we need to.
So moved.
Steve, second?
Second.
Right here, Steve. Any discussion or questions? Steve, it looks like you and I are the only two not up.
I know, I'm looking at that, there's 5 people?
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
That's why 2 of them that were appointed are for
Yes.
another one.
For the last year of the 2 year.
Get back to the regular rotation again.
Yeah. How do you get those?
Yes, so much fun. Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor to establish April 8th as the annual school board district election, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, discuss the 25-26 district calendar draft.
Yeah, excuse me, you posted, but I was talk about it real quick, and then I'll get it out to staff to look at, to bring stuff back next week, or next year, but next month, I'm getting there. And basically, it's a clone of this year, clone of the last number of years. The big exceptions would be that no DSU early release for an event. Confirm that today, that was the
Oh,
case.
good.
And because of how it falls, Christmas break would actually be a little bit longer for students. It'd be about 3 days longer because of when January 1 is, and then the January 2nd we would have in-service on that Friday, so they would actually come back the following Monday. So that's one change. The other change then would be at spring break in the draft calendar has an extra day, has Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And the reason being is that way the end date is May 19th on a Tuesday. We didn't want it to be on a Monday. We want to have at least 2 days if we can, because we do semester testing at the end over 2 days. And do Friday and then have everybody come back for just the Monday, so it's Monday, Tuesday, if we stay with the 3 days spring break versus the 2 day. Other than that, it's identical to this year as far as anything else, and open house and start dates and everything. So everything's 1 day different just because of the calendar, but other than that, other than those 2 changes, it's what we're proposing as a draft is the same type of calendar, and we'll have staff look it over now and get their thoughts on changes that would be positive, and bring it back at next month's board meeting to try and approve.
I'm always amazed at what people approach me and ask questions about. And I think I had 5 different people approach me and ask why our kids had to come back to school on Friday for 1 day after Christmas break. I'm like,
I had like 30 people ask me.
Just because I'm a mean guy, or
no, I said, that Mr. Jordan.
yeah.
I'm just like, that is the way the cookies crumbled this year because the in-service, and we do encourage you to come to school board meetings, and the calendar's out there, and so pay attention to it coming up here.
So the year before we had it, when we came back, we had a PD day first, which worked because it was on a Wednesday.
Yes, and then
we had school Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
And then the next year came, and as we went back to staff and had them look at this, one of the things they really wanted was to have that
PD day.
PD day
Yeah.
when they first got back. We said, okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that, which then had that Friday be the first day. Now next year it would be,
Yeah.
in this proposed calendar, it would be a really long, because once you figure out the weekend, it's 3 extra days. It's like 16 days, I think,
Yeah.
off over Christmas break.
Yeah. So we can tell them you felt really bad about that,
Nice.
and now they get 3 extra
Gave
days.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all because of the year before, and we started that P day, and the staff liked
Yeah.
the professional development day.
Yeah.
And after they gave input last year,
Yeah.
we made that change and went with that.
Mhm.
On top of that, I think we're smarter than the schools that didn't. Our kids got smarter.
Yeah,
They
they got smarter.
That's what I told them.
There you
And
go.
this calendar then that we're proposing actually splits the semesters up about as even as it's been in a long time, 85 in one first semester, 89 second semester, which is good then for the high school. That doesn't mean as much for the middle school or for the elementary, but for the high school with the different semester classes, it's good to have them as close as we can.
And then this will come back next board meeting for?
Yep, next board meeting, we'll have it, and if, well, like I say, I'll get it out to staff this week, put in workrooms if they want to give their input on thoughts, if there's something that we can do better, why not, so. go from there. However, we can't start 2 weeks later and get out a week earlier, it just doesn't work, even though that gets recommended sometimes, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay, well, our next item, we need to wait a little bit because we are going to start at 6 o'clock with our public hearing for the middle school building additions. So, how would you like to handle that, Mr. Jorgensen? Should we
We'll just,
go ahead and,
take a break, because we gotta give time for JLG to set
Yeah.
up stuff, and just plan on, we'll take a short break until 6 p.m. and start up at 6.
yeah, and just I'll remind everybody, public meeting laws, we can't be discussing
Yep.
things, so, during this time. So, looking for numbers.
Yeah, I know, I talked to Rose.
So how do you feel with being the person in control of the tech today? Fill you with a sense of power?
I don't know how to pause it or mute it right now. So we might be just live for this whole thing.
There's no reason.
I can't believe they trusted me. Must be,
They got so much going on actually.
Yeah, it's,
I walked in like,
Yeah, it's all right.
my eyebrows are trying to get my kid to basketball practice. Out of my vehicle, sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah, so, no, I was ready to be here at 6.
we'll just let it go. Yep.
Yeah. No, it
So the
doesn't.
recording will just continue to run.
Yeah,
No, I'm not Christmas, well, winter break.
I need to get Mitch to run.
Winter break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I love it.
Good.
Yeah.
You have to hand them out ahead of time, they'll start looking. I'll wait till go through.
You pass them down.
You sure?
Once we get there.
Okay.
Like their faces like this. We're all doing that.
Big lots of notes down?
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
His hair is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Stick around for lunch.
So, oh man, that is so cute.
Well, you can't really ask much questions now.
No, I can't.
But if, because we're not meeting, but if you have questions that you need to
The
ask.
girls, I don't know how they
You
don't.
can ask them like,
You know,
Okay.
that's my, that's my niece.
Okay. Is there gonna be people here?
I don't know, we'll see.
Am I gonna be the only one?
Yeah, look, Mr. Ricky will have a presentation just for you.
Oh, boy.
You're gonna be in the know, McKenna.
Oh, yeah.
He really should be where.
It's pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not skill wise, I'm not saying that, but that's where.
He does great work.
Before he was like, he's trying to go super light, and that was really hard to see the start. And you said, no. I said, I don't care, just stay in this one, so watch the wrestling and stuff, and he's been doing it for whatever. And it's just a real, like, he would get picked up 3 times and 3 times.
Oh, now we have 5 more minutes.
He was like,
So, the one kid, I'm fairly certain the Yellowstone character was named after the high school kid.
what's your
Well,
name?
then think about the new coach.
Rip Simmons now.
Yeah, they had a like a Zoom or Teams with everybody and stuff. They're pretty excited about it, and they're showing my breath involved now. And
I was talking to Taylor Bloom, who played there.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
Thanks, sure you saw it. Thank you.
But no, I was talking to Taylor Bloom who played there, and he said he loved Dan when
Okay.
Dan was there, because Dan coached when
Yeah, okay.
Taylor was playing.
I thought we've only heard good stuff, so that's fun.
Exciting times.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. New head coach,
Yeah.
so it changes a lot for recruits, potentially, if they, how does that work if the coach leaves? They have an opportunity to, I mean, with the portal, it's different anyways now, but I won't worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
Always want to be a jackrabbit.
Yeah.
make that part easier.
And I'm,
Yeah, definitely.
good for him for staying,
I'm.
I'm, that's awesome.
Right, he just sits
It is, it's gonna be great, Coach Jackson's awesome.
Yeah, he was there in a different capacity
Yeah.
before. He was the DB's coach.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
It's obviously it's a pretty great opportunity for all those other guys. So, I have a friend who's married to a defensive coach from last year.
Oh,
So I saw the news and I was like, I would assume they're moving to Washington.
yeah.
And she's like 8 months pregnant.
Oh my
They
God.
just bought a house last year because he just came back last year.
Timing.
Yeah, and I'm sure his salary probably quadrupled or something, but quite the unfortunate timing, like you're saying. So.
I really wasn't expecting that one, not for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was
anyway.
pretty fast.
I wasn't expecting. Well, you look at it too, I mean, you handed a stacked team, and, I'm sorry, boy, Jimmy, love you, but I don't know that.
I was pretty salty when I read the news.
I was very salty.
But I also I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't be
It
sure.
is
I'm not crazy.
I'm just gonna say this much, green is red in the morning.
The price of soybeans really went up today.
Did you?
Oh,
Yes.
Everything. But thank you.
Yep.
But yeah.
I like it.
It can be a life-changing amount of
Yeah, absolutely. I think when my phone
Yeah.
said
That's what I do.
You've gotta be kidding.
8th and
What'd you
6th,
say?
all of a sudden there's
Our
no
mail
rush
lady
to
showed up when she drove in.
But
So
they
she
just
just
go down
ran
to
out
Las
to
Cruces for a while.
Mhm.
But they didn't want to escape, so they
I
could.
was not impressed with her decision.
Maybe I should.
Were you impressed?
So then they just went like a week here.
No.
and a week
I'm
there.
still-
I seen them for a month again, so they're too off for a month.
And I can put myself into
I go
Yeah,
okay.
you're right, that changed the game for lots of folks.
And your brother's home is
Oh,
okay?
I remember parents holding up iPads in the crowd trying to video games for
But I
kids.
have
and
cousins
don't
in
need
throughout the area, Orange County.
I think that's probably as good as you're gonna get it with the
You wanna
weather.
turn off the front bank of lights?
Yeah, they're just right on the line.
Oh my gosh.
This is the grade I was waiting on.
Coach Lincoln
Okay.
and playing football back
Oh,
in the
okay.
day, so I'm like, God, this is a
Well,
good
one of
group
the
of
athletes
athletes.
said that that was the plan. Okay, we will go ahead and resume the meeting. So, Mr. Brooks, you gonna start things
I
off?
state, so this is a public hearing for the purpose of considering the project for the middle school building additions, renovations, along with estimated costs and funding sources. It's been published twice, December 31st and January 7th. And we're here in public to discuss what might be occurring.
All right. Okay, well, welcome.
Yes, thank you
Thank you
guys.
for coming, Mr. Ricky. Are you going to go ahead and present away here?
I'm just gonna kick off as a reminder, excuse me, that when this all started with the middle school entrance, you know, the big focus on this was the safety issue we were dealing with the stairs being outside and the snow removal. And then the other big safety part of it was the bus lane with cars and buses in the same area. So that started this. It's been on our long term for too many years. And JLG's been great to work with. They've come up with some good plans and they can show us where we're at. But again, that was what they're proposing then would have an entry level, which is great, street level I should say. Increases the safety factor from how we would have visitors coming into the building. It would be the same as what we have for the high school right now. And then again, the other big safety item in my mind, probably the biggest, is separating the bus loop from the car loop and providing some additional parking for our staff along with it. So I'm gonna just want to refresh everybody on how we got to where we are, and I'll turn it over to another Mr. Ricky. How's that?
Yeah, thank you. I've been here before, obviously. I think it's been a couple months. Thanks for having me again. I'm Jacob Ricky. I'm with JLG Architects. We've been working on a version of this for over a year, just including the facility study that we did. That was kind of the first phase of this, just taking a look for you guys at district-wide, what everything looks like. And then, as Joel mentioned, we sort of narrowed in on some of the major priorities for the district, which inevitably took us, it took a main focus at the middle school with that entrance. We've been working with a committee made up of administrators, teachers in the district, and then as well as quite a few board members, a lot of familiar faces in the room. So I think we've had a good representation from the district side of things to talk about all of this. And from the beginning, what we identified was some project goals. This is a summary of it. There was a lot there. Obviously, in this district, there's a lot of needs that you guys could address, but these are the key ones. Really provide a safe and accessible entrance to the middle school with a modern layout for the admin area. Just like Joel said, there's obvious concerns with that existing entrance. The layout that is a little bit different than what we would see where you enter into the building and then you're 30 feet away from the admin, that kind of control point. It's just a little bit, backwards from the way that a lot of our design is today. So that's kind of that modern layout comment there. And then expanding the bus loop parking lot to create that separate bus loop and add those staff parking spaces. That was another really big piece of it. Like Joel said, there's a lot of safety involved in that, but just also, it's a pretty congested area before and after school, with staff parking on the street and parents trying to drop off on the street, but also buses. And so that's been a big focus for us. And then the last two would be updating the aging middle school conditions. Really looked at lighting, ceilings, casework, door hardware, and carpet. Not necessarily throughout the entire building, but addressing the major needs first, and then kind of working through with budget on how much we can really get to with all of those items. And then the last piece is just providing more space to allow for the growth in the middle school, setting the district up for not just tomorrow or not just once this renovation is done, but that future growth opportunity. A lot of the plans they should look familiar to you guys. It's a lot of the same information. We've been continuously updating things in our conversations that we have weekly. but it's not a groundbreaking difference than what we've seen before. This is the site plan, proposed schematic site plan. Still shows this separate bus loop that allows for 9 buses to meet your guys' needs, and then it provides additional parking along the south there. It would obviously kind of take up some of that southern edge of the tree line, green space, but a big goal for this was to not impact the football field, try and stay away from that as much as possible, because it just, I think that was something that came out of the last board conversation was, if it's not necessary, let's just try and stay away from there. If down the road you guys have a big expansion or addition or new construction, you can make that decision, but for now, do what we can to avoid that. So, site-wise, we've got the bus loop. The primary addition is directly south of where the existing entrance is. You're all familiar, I'm sure, with the peak entry canopy. It's set down 4 feet, so we're working through, you can see in some of the renderings, we're working through how to nicely, kind of clean that up, keep some of the same. It's going to be a similar entrance that's pulled out away from the building, not anything that's too totally different, trying to blend in with the existing school that there is, but also brighten it up and create a new entrance for you guys. Any questions, sorry, on the site?
Yeah, so the one question I have, the area here that you have, like in green, around there, can you explain that?
This additional boxed area?
Mhm.
That would be with the alternate for additional classrooms.
Okay.
So this, in this view, it shows the base project that we've talked about with the admin, the entrance, the board, or the conference room that's in there. And then if that classroom, which we're working through as an alternate right now, if that was to be accepted and built, that's that piece there. So it does show still a good buffer from the football field, and where that would be in relation to the new bus loop.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Moving into the base bid portion of the project. This, again, is pretty similar to what we've looked at in the past. Not a lot of groundbreaking change here. Now that we're to the point of schematic design, we've had a chance to talk about things like finishes. Does it make sense to have carpet in the lobby area? What types of carpet, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, walls aren't moving a whole lot anymore. We've kind of gotten to a point where between the reception area, having the principal office, counselor's office right there, accessible to the reception desk, the nurses area being relocated with a restroom and ISS in close proximity. Just, we've kind of done some playing around with puzzle pieces to fit those in a way that makes most sense for the use of the admin staff. And then we're still seeing that meeting room in the southeast corner, just providing a new conference room. The existing one is undersized and pretty dark, so getting a new space for that purpose. Still entering the building at ground level with this design. You come in off the parking lot at 0, basically, and then take the steps down to get to the existing middle school level, or you can see in this box here, this is a lift, or it's kind of a limited elevator, not a full, we don't need to go up 10 stories, but it looks and functions a lot like an elevator, but just isn't quite as expensive, to be honest.
So it would make our middle school handicap accessible versus having to go to this little entrance right now.
Exactly. Yep. So we're still providing that accessibility in the middle school, but bringing it all inside instead of having to go down an icy ramp. You come in the front doors. Hopefully, all the snow and ice is cleared off, so it's easy to get in. And then once you're in, it's all safe and accessible from there. Also, as a part of this base bid, would be first in plan, one of the more walls, hard line changes is in the special education room now. There's currently a folding partition. It's original to the building, doesn't function that well, and it's always splitting the room in half. It's not used to, in its original use. You could collapse it and then have a double space. It sounds like the way that it's used now, we don't have the need for one large space. It's 2 classrooms, but there's sound problems with that. It's not a wall, it's just an accordion folding partition.
And this would also have a door that would go through, which we don't have.
Yep. So better access between the 2 classrooms, and then just creating some privacy and isolation. And then in the space just to the south of that, you can see there's a couple support spaces for those special education rooms, just an additional space that is in need of that classroom requirement, or that classroom type. In this bolded list here, this really represents the updates to the existing space that we have talked about to this point. So really throughout the full middle school, we'd be looking at new lights and ceiling tiles. After walking around with ourselves and Hausman, the construction manager, it looks like the ceiling grid is in pretty good condition, really good condition in most areas. So the plan is to leave that, helps to save some costs and definitely helps with scheduling. Obviously if there's areas where if they're starting to pull stuff down and it's crumbling, we'll readdress that, but that is the plan. And then door hardware has been a pretty common issue that's brought up, so going through and leaving doors as is, but swapping out the handles, the locking mechanisms, just to provide that functionality. It's a safety issue too, and then it would also help with making sure that all the keys work in all the doors. Casework, so that's all the cabinetry in the classrooms. We've seen quite a bit of aging with that. It's a plastic laminate cabinetry, which is common and similar to what we'd put back in, but just the quality of it is started to, some of the surfacing is peeling away, the hardware is starting to fail. So we're looking at options for, in a lot of the classrooms there's an entire wall of casework. If we take that out, how much can we put back in? In the high school, the casework layouts in a typical classroom, unless it's a science room, it's a lot more condensed. So there wouldn't be the need for an entire wall of casework, but maybe you've got 12 feet of it, something like that, to provide what the teachers need for storage and some counter space, but we wouldn't be talking about as much of a project for replacing all of those full walls of casework. And then as a part of this, there'd be carpet that would be replaced. We're still working through on which rooms need it in particular. Some have seen recent replacement. Obviously we're not going to go in and replace carpet if it was just done 2 years ago, but there are some that have snags and issues that for sure need to be replaced. So we're working through the phasing on, if there's a number that we want to accomplish as a part of this project, and then phase the rest of it out for future, like you guys do currently. That's one piece of it as well. And then in our central area here, this is one of the changes from last time, where we're relocating admin, pulling the principal's office, that reception desk, and bringing it out to the front. We've kind of talked around how we rework that space. And in the previous version, it was a second alternate to do more work, build out restrooms, another classroom. It was a pretty extensive remodel, quite a bit of cost associated with that third version. So what we've talked about up to this point now is refreshing the space, but not moving walls, maybe providing some additional casework in the staff break area, excuse me, where they're using tables and some dated things right now to set crock pots or whatever their, additional needs are in there. Repurposing this speech office for a mother's room, something that is a requirement most times in new construction now.
Yeah.
It's kind of the perfect size for that. Would have the privacy there right off of the staff break space. And then allowing this principal's office to be kind of a meeting room for teachers. You could call it a huddle room, small conference room, whatever you want to name it, but just another space for teachers to have a meeting about planning, whatever the use is. It would be a pretty simple fit out of that with the furniture that's there. It's all able to be removed. It's not like anything's fixed to the ground and we gotta tear walls down and redo it all. It's a pretty light refresh. So that's the one big change in just providing a functional space there with some small touches. And then this middle area where we have the reception, that would function as an expansion of the staff area, but be more focused on the workroom. So printer, a little bit bigger printer in that area, keeping the paper storage, and then having a work island counter kind of thing there so that staff can go in and do all their outside of the class work type stuff. I think that's
Restroom.
And then the restrooms, that's the last one. So the existing 2 restrooms in the front, 2 restrooms on the, kind of in the middle near the gym. We'd be looking at updating the finishes, a lot of the block and wall, like the clear coating on the block has started to fade away and there's some cleaning problems there. Fixtures have been kind of in and out of commission, mostly functional, but just some struggles there with the age of the finishes and the fixtures. So again, not moving any walls, but just updating what's there to be modern and more functional. Any questions on the base scope of this schematic plan? Okay. So this is the same image that we've had in the past, but this rendering starts to give us an idea for what that new entrance would look like using brick like this existing school has. Some additional white metal panel material similar to the top band that goes around the school existing now, and then that kind of raised entry portion to help match up with that peak that's there today. There's some elevations in there just to provide a little bit more information. You can kind of see from a schematic level how at parking lot here, you're at grade, there's entrance into the building, and then we would still have that slope down to the existing middle school, the football field area out there. It's not a drastic cliff. There's not too much grade change there where there's safety concerns. It's really pretty similar to what's there today. And then I did include this estimate sheet from the previous presentation. It's not a part of the packet, it's a different size, but this is the estimate, just as a reminder, from November. Nothing has been updated on here. We are currently in the process with the construction manager of updating the estimate. That will be finished and presented to the building committee in the next couple of weeks. So there will be a pretty accurate version of this with all the new changes that have happened over the last 2 months, just so everybody's aware of that. We don't expect it to be a lot different, but it's been 2 months worth of work, so it'll be good to have their opinion on that. Go back one slide. Yeah. This was the one to add the classroom updates. So the first one was just for the entrance, the bus loop, and then all the associated utilities, site improvements, tree removals, and that kind of stuff.
Can you go to the alternate?
Yep. And when will that decision be made? Like the alternate?
When we open bids, we'll know what the values of each are, what the funding, so that's when we kind of determine the go forward.
And back when this was started, this was actually the first alternate. Now this has been combined as the base. So the original one was just gonna be base, and then the alternate was gonna include doing more of the current middle school revisions. And then third one was gonna be, or the next one's gonna be the classrooms. Now it's just gonna be we're just saying the base, the committee was talking about the base, which is what Jacob just went through with the entrance and then remodeling the current. And then the alternate would be now to add classrooms. So it'll be two different bid packages that come in, and once you see costs, you can decide what makes sense.
In the meantime, as the construction manager puts together their estimate, they'll have a lot of their costs broken out into different functions, or in different portions of the project. So the committee will have the opportunity through the rest of the design to talk through, do we want to create another alternate to make, if something came in at a higher cost than expected, or hopefully a lower cost than expected, do we want to add another alternate for another piece, or do we want to break more of this out to just allow for flexibility in what that final number looks like? So there will continue to be revisions to the scope of the project based on what that estimate is from the construction manager, to really make sure we're meeting the needs and kind of being using the dollars appropriately, I should say.
We're all about the wise use of taxpayer dollars.
Exactly right. So this is the only alternate that we're showing now. Like Joel said, we kind of have consolidated things around, and really what's included in this is just the 4 classroom addition. We'd be at the same height as the existing middle school in terms of a floor level, so there's not a going up and down stairs between classes or going upstairs to go to use the restroom, any of that kind of stuff. It's all down at that same middle school level that's there today, and it adds these 4 classrooms that are in similar layout and size to what you have today, but then there's also a nice well-sized commons area to allow for additional locker rooms, that kind of free flow from, it's a separate wing of the building, so kind of the in and out, there's just enough space and buffer zone in there to make that really a functional commons locker rooms or locker area.
As of right now, can I ask Mr. Cook a question? Is that okay? Is this not a good time to do that, Mr. Cook? So, how are you sitting with classrooms right now? Are you guys doing okay?
Yeah. And this would just allow us to block off another group bring some people from the north probably down, because the north end has no water and no bathrooms. So those kids are really isolated up there without, now my art room have to stay there, but I'd probably bring my health and social studies class down, my special education group down, and we'd probably move them in here somewhere else and then move this into some form of my thoughts right now are that maybe I'd put math classes all in this one section, and maybe I'd indicate social studies, or I might just put 8th grade in there. Just depends, because you gotta keep your science folks next to science labs. And,
right.
There's some of that stuff that goes into your head. But this would fill, if it was me running the show, first day it opens up, I'd have that filled with kids, and I'd be moving kids out of places around the building, which would open other rooms, but it wouldn't necessarily be conducive to 4th grade, another grade or something. That would have to be thought out differently than if you're looking at I guess what I'm trying to say is if you brought a whole group of kids in, it'd be different thought process than if I
Right.
go and just look at my 6th and 8th grade kids.
Okay.
To me, the 4 classrooms give us flexibility in all 3 buildings.
Yes.
If we have a bubble in our high school for whatever reason,
Right.
the west end of our middle school becomes part of the high school, this becomes all middle school.
Yeah.
If our middle school gets a bubble, we've got the rooms. If our elementary gets, like a few years back, we were at 550. If we get to that again, I'm not saying we need to move, but we would have the ability to move the 5th grade and keep them as their own pod still, and not have them in with the rest. So To me, it gives us the ability in all three buildings if needed.
That's what I like about this, is that it separates, so that if we do have that need, because the elementary, I wasn't thinking about the high school, but I remember that with the elementary, we were.
Yeah, and so this isn't, we're not suggesting we build this because we need to move the elementary, that's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying if we get in a position where we've outgrown the elementary, we can make adjustments and keep moving.
Right.
And again, these 4 rooms being their own sort of pod in a way.
Yeah. The place in there, the bathrooms are.
Yeah,
because
where's the
north
restroom?
end,
Right next to it.
Those kids can just well be on Mars when they go to the bathroom, because they can disappear, you know?
Okay.
So this way you control a lot more of the movement, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of good things
So the
here.
bathrooms are right there.
Yeah, these 2 red boxes are where the 2 restrooms are, so they're actually closer than most others
Yeah,
to
the
the
rest of them
restrooms.
is-
Right.
Which was part of the study, just whether more restrooms were needed, and the access is right there, so that's seen as a pretty good benefit.
Yeah.
What other questions for the first alternate, just in terms of plan? We've got the same renderings and elevations in the following pages, but
I really like how you made an effort to make it look like our existing structure.
yes.
Looks,
Thank
it's
you.
a nice, it appears to be a nice flow.
Mhm.
It's good.
I think it looks nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was it.
But you
Yeah.
like that, huh, McKenna?
Yeah.
And then again, this last page, pre-design estimate, same as the others from November. This wasn't the highest one because we took that out when we had the revisions with the restrooms in the core area. Not, we had talked about really doing a heavy renovation there. That option kind of was decided to be not a necessity or not, worth exploring further. So this is kind of the highest version with that second alternate, or with that first alternate, sorry. Okay, any other questions?
And I'll say JLG's been really good to work with. And Hausman would help would be good to work with as well. I'm sure they will be.
I saw him walking down the street in Sioux Falls one day with his wife at 3:30, I yelled at him.
You did. You scared me. I'm not gonna lie, you scared me.
We're on top of it.
That's good. Good, Mr. Cook. You
And
stay
the
on
committee
that.
can speak whenever we brought up questions, ideas. They've been good to respond to them and show us yes and no why things work, why they don't work.
Well, I really appreciate all the work from the committee and everybody that has put into this. I know it's a lot of work and time factor, so thank you. This is,
Absolutely, we've got a good group.
yeah, really good.
And part of the hearing is to just address the funding of it also.
Yes.
We're doing exclusively from the capital outlay fund. We won't be doing an additional bond or anything that would increase taxes, just comes from the capital outlay fund. We have in our current year budget, 3.5 million set aside for this. We've been saving up for a number of years. In next year's budget, there'll be funds available, and anything that, once we get in the bids and we make our acceptances that we're short on, we would then go get certificates from First Bank and Trust. We pay that back over a 2 to 5 year period, depending on how much that amount is. So everything would be just done through our regular processes. A lot of that is just because we've been planning for 5+ years. We've been able to be ready for it. So I'll make sure
Mitch, how much do you say you have this year?
this year we have 3.5 in this year's budget set aside. Yeah. And it's in our
does
capital
that-
outlay. It's in our construction. There's a whole line item for it.
Right. And that doesn't short us as far as other capital outlay.
When we do go to make the choice, we'll have our capital outlay lists. We'll have all the different pieces. I mean, we do have to make everything meet, but that's why we go out to the loan
Right.
versus just reducing everything down to make sure that we can still meet all of our obligations. But every year we do have to weigh all the different projects against each other.
There's a capital outlay committee that meets every
Yeah.
year, and so then therefore you can see how that all works.
Yeah.
quite fascinating.
It is quite
Time well
fascinating.
spent.
And I would also say that, you know, depending on where it comes in at, whether it's 2 to 4 or 5 years, a lot of times when I've been in other places, we've had these additions, it's been over 15 years. I mean, it's been a lengthy process to actually, this is living within our means, is the
Yes.
easiest way to say it, is we're not going out and asking for additional. We're gonna live with what we have, but we can update the facility, we can make the entrance safer. And in my mind, the bus loop is huge to have that changed. And if the alternate comes in, that we can have some classrooms, you know, if you're doing it at the same time, chances are it's gonna be less of a cost than if you do it down the road. But again, once those bids come in, that's where it falls back on the board to decide what you wanna do.
Right. Yeah, I like that bus loop idea. I mean, I think that's a great use of what we have, you know, along that tree line there.
Plus, the director did a good job taking out the police cars.
Yeah.
And we've asked a lot of questions too about, you know, so a lot of the entrance won't be usable, obviously, but that area where we'll have just for cars eventually, they'll have that pretty well in place, that still have the flow for in front of this part of the building.
During construction.
During construction, even
construction.
while the rest would be going on. Yeah.
We've been working with Houseman pretty close, and, you know, from our team, we've got JLG, we have architects and interior designers, it's a, you know, that's our, offering in terms of just JLG, but on our team, we've got civil engineers who, in terms of parking lots and turning radiuses and all those things, they've got all the design expertise and knowledge for exactly how big of a turn we need out of there for the buses and things like if it's too sharp of a turn and the bus driver is really looking back, you know, so a lot of that revision to the parking will be very well thought out and well planned from a civil design perspective, and we've got mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, structural engineers all on board that are working on the details of this as well, talking about you know, all their own specific expertise to make sure that it's all built to the standards that are necessary. So.
And most important, we have a local fellow that's got some skin in the game, so.
Yeah.
We remind him of that quite often.
Yeah.
too.
No doubt. There's no walking away.
Any
from
mistakes
this
that
one.
happen, I'm afraid you might be the fall guy.
And
So you're aware.
your whole team has been good to work with.
Thank
though.
you.
But I like it because they're, like the bullet points, boom, 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 you're very easily defensible way of saying that it's
Yes.
an obvious improvement.
Yeah,
And
right.
so, it's not like we're doing something that's, it's so much better than what we currently have. And so
Yes,
it's an improvement.
Thank you.
definitely an improvement. So, Mr. Brooks, then what's our next steps?
Just conducted the hearing, you know, as far as going forward, we can't let out for bid according to our policy until 10 days after a hearing.
Right.
And we're not at that point yet. They'll do their design or development
We thought we would,
bid
but
packages.
you know.
Yeah.
He was downtown with his wife.
Evidently left early one day and.
You know, Christmas Eve, I was out of the office,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Dr. Cook made sure to make sure I was
Amazing.
back.
No.
But this,
Who are you working for, Scrooge?
Isn't that a movie?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
But yeah, we're in schematic design. There's 2 phases of design left that, you know, each phase informs the next phase. We don't wanna take it all the way to the finish line in terms of design and then have the committee say, yeah, maybe we don't wanna do that whole middle area thing, so let's scrap that and start over. So each step we get a little bit more laser focused on the details. We get the estimate and cost information more relevant and more up to date, and just continue to march forward. And the plan has been to bid in the spring for construction to start as soon as possible with school and all that stuff to consider.
It's exciting.
And as we get into this, obviously there will be changes on how and where we have buses and stuff. In the meantime, while things are being built, we'll have to.
Yeah, figure a lot out.
So when the time the construction begins to when the construction is done enough so you can use the facility, roughly? How long? No, I don't want to put you on the spot. or
Well, the
anything,
most
but
recent
just give us a
conversation with
ballpark.
Houseman has been, you know, the main objective would be to get as much done over the summer as possible so that the middle school function isn't affected except for that entrance.
Okay.
So over
So
the
the
summer, a lot of it
roof
would
inside
get
the-
done, and then I think they said their full construction timeline as of today is 8 months. So hopefully by end of semester, that kind of New Year transition, I mean, you know, it depends a little bit on if it's base bid versus the full
Right,
project,
right.
but it wouldn't be years, it's more, you know, within 2025, potentially a little 2026 from their latest
Yep.
presentations.
I think there has to be a lot to be said for you, Mitch, I mean, as far as the planning ahead
Oh, yeah.
for this project and the money that was set aside. I mean, that goes a long ways, I think.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. It was a board goal almost every year, so it's pretty easy to set money aside when the board ranked it high each year for the last, you know. So it's been many boards that have been
Yeah.
It really
going
has.
for this, yeah.
And then too, Mitch's advice for us to pay off debt early has also helped a lot. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. A lot of kudos go to Mitch. Okay, well, I will move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's adjournment.
So,
All right, Steve. Jordan, second. Okay, non-negotiable. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I think it was in college, Dr. Cook
Great. I want to.
made